where did Anthony Joshua's new style come from? This new technique where he's got his left hand low and he's almost looking like a knockoff version of Tyson Fury in the way he fought against Alexander Povetkin. Where did that style come from? Because I can't remember him ever boxing like that before in his career, either amateur or pro. Well, I'm going to get on to exploring the possibilities of where that style came from a little bit later on in the video. But first of all, I want to talk about the fact that a lot of people are comparing his performance against Povetkin to Klitschko's performance against Povetkin. And they're saying, well, this shows that Joshua really is a hype job and he's overrated and so on and so forth, because he struggled a lot more with Povetkin and he lost several rounds and got his nose bloodied and got buzzed in there against a much older, more faded version of Povetkin than the one who Klitschko fought and handled with ease. Well, here's what I'll say about that. Povetkin himself said that he is much stronger now than he was when he fought Klitschko. Now, I don't know whether that's true, whether that's just something Povetkin said to hype the fight against Joshua, whether it's something that he believes in his mind, but it might not necessarily be true, or whether it actually is true. I don't know. But one thing I certainly am very, very sure of is that the Alexander Povetkin who fought Klitschko had far better stamina and far more energy than the Povetkin who fought Joshua. That's what I'm sure of. I know Joshua was hitting Povetkin to the body and Klitschko wasn't, and the body shots definitely took a toll on Povetkin. But I can't just put it all down to body shots, because in the Klitschko fight, it was very physically rough and demanding for Povetkin. He was getting leaned on constantly from the opening bell all the way to the 12th, as well as taking big headshots, powerful headshots that dropped him. All that was going on. And yet this guy was still throwing shots in the last round, was still on his feet, came back from the knockdowns and continued to persevere. He didn't crumble in the same way that he did against Joshua. So I think the Povetkin who fought Klitschko was a lot more resilient than the Povetkin who fought Joshua. But as far as the performances of Joshua and Klitschko against Povetkin, Joshua fought within the rules. Joshua wasn't leaning all over Povetkin from the opening bell, which prevented Povetkin from getting shots off. That's what Klitschko did. Klitschko leaned all over Povetkin in a similar style, or clinched Povetkin in a similar style to what Lawrence Okolie was doing to Matty Askin. Every second, this guy was grabbing him. And because of that, Povetkin, the smaller man, the weaker man, couldn't get any punches off. And just to be clear, as I said in the Lawrence Okolie Matty Askin fight, excessive clinching is illegal. You're not allowed to do that. And I've been very, very consistent when it comes to criticizing fighters for excessive clinching. I also criticize Maris Breedis for his excessive clinching against Mike Perez. And in these situations, there's a common denominator, a referee who's far too lenient on the guy who's excessively clinching, particularly in the cases of Maris Breedis and Klitschko. At least in the Lawrence Okolie Askin fight, Okolie was deducted 3 points, although he still persisted to hold even after that. But Klitschko against Povetkin, yeah, he was just constant. In fact, there's a video. I'm going to put a screenshot on screen right now. There's a video that all of you can go and watch. If you're in any doubt that Klitschko used excessive holding as a tactic in order to win the fight against Povetkin, go and watch this video. It's on screen right now. Go and watch it. If you can watch that video and then try and tell me that if Klitschko wasn't allowed to clinch like that, the fight would have gone the same way and Klitschko would have won it just as easily. If you can say that after watching that video, then there's something mentally wrong with you. The reason, one of the main reasons why Klitschko was able to defeat Povetkin in such dominant fashion is because he was able to get away with so much illegal clinching and leaning. That's why. If you take away that clinching and leaning that Klitschko was doing with a very stern referee like the referee he had in the Bryant Jennings fight, for example, that would have been a much more difficult fight for Klitschko. 100,000,000%, it would have been way more difficult. In fact, I don't even know whether Klitschko would have won it. Maybe he would have won it. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I'm just saying I don't know. Because it could have made such a dramatic difference to how that fight played out if Klitschko wasn't allowed to hold like that. You know, I mean, Muhammad Ali, when he fought Joe Frazier the second time, they say he held excessively. I mean, he didn't hold anywhere near as much as, or lean on anywhere near as much as Klitschko did against Povetkin, but he still held a lot. But in the third fight, Ali wasn't allowed to hold as much against Joe Frazier, and therefore the fight was a lot better, and Frazier did a lot more damage to Ali in the third fight than he did in the second fight. So it can make a lot of difference whether somebody is allowed to excessively clinch or not, and it can even make the difference between winning and losing. Now you look at Joshua against Povetkin, Joshua was hardly clinching in the fight. He won the fight cleanly, without clinching. Now, one thing he was doing, to be fair, it wasn't completely clean. Let me just come back and contradict myself slightly. He was actually copying a little Klitschko trick. When a couple of times in the fight he did this. He didn't do it every time like Klitschko was doing against David Haye, for example, but he did it a few times, and it was a Klitschko trick where when Povetkin was coming in, Joshua started pulling Povetkin's head down. So Joshua's jabbing arm is out, extended. Povetkin's coming at him. Joshua takes a step back and he pulls the back of Povetkin's neck down and forward. All right? To kind of like pull him off balance and steer him out of the way. Joshua did that a few times against Povetkin, and that is illegal too. The referee didn't pick up on it. One, because it's Joshua, and two, because he didn't do it that often. All right? But that's one thing he did. But apart from doing that a few times, he was relatively clean in the fight. There was no excessive clinching, no excessive holding, no leaning on, none of that business. So he won the fight cleanly. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't so scared of what Povetkin might do to him as Klitschko was. Klitschko was petrified of Povetkin getting any shots off on the inside. Absolutely petrified. Joshua wasn't. Joshua was a lot less scared of what Povetkin was going to get off. Certainly early in the fight, you know? So two different mentalities, two different sets of tactics were used. But with that being said, it was two different versions of Povetkin. Povetkin was a lot younger when he fought Klitschko, had a lot more energy, potentially had some chemical help as well in the Klitschko fight, and for my money was a lot more resilient. He claims he was physically stronger against Joshua than he was against Klitschko. I don't know about that, all right? That's just what Povetkin's saying himself. You guys can take it or leave it. But anyway, as far as Joshua's style, I've never seen him box like that. He looked a lot more relaxed and fluid than I've seen him before. I was impressed by how sharp his jab looked, even though it wasn't that consistent in terms of landing, but it was very sharp when he threw it and fast. He looked smoother than normal. But where has this style come from? Because Robert McCracken has been with him, I think, from the beginning of his career. He wasn't officially his trainer at the beginning of his career. That was Tony Sims. And that's because there was a rule in place in Britain where an amateur coach couldn't also train professionals. But that rule has since been overturned, and now amateur coaches can also train professionals. Or it might not be an amateur coach, it might be someone who trains the England team or Team GB. It might be them. A national boxing coach, amateur boxing coach, is not allowed to also train professionals. That could be it. It's one of the two. But either way, he's been with Rob McCracken all his career. So where did this sudden change in style come from for the Povetkin fight? I'd heard a rumor from a few different people on the boxing circuit, let's just say, that Joshua had been reaching out to certain other trainers to assist him in improving. And I think there was even an American trainer. Was it Freddie Roach? It might have been Freddie Roach who said that Joshua reached out to him to help him as well. But there's been rumors certainly that, as well as Roach or whatever American trainer, there have been other people who Joshua's reached out to to try and help him develop. I don't know whether this is true. This is just a word on the grapevine. But one thing I do know is that his style had changed, and he's obviously been working on a change of style, because his style had changed in that Povetkin fight. That was not the Anthony Joshua we've seen before. In fact, there was moments there where he was almost trying a little shoulder roll. Right? Very un-Joshua-like. Now, whether this is the right style for him remains to be seen. Whenever you're trying to adapt your style or change your style, you will go through a transitionary period where you're going to have teething problems, where it's not all going to go smoothly. But it might still be the right thing to do in the long run. And Joshua's also clearly worked on his lateral movement for the Povetkin fight, because he was moving a lot better than I've seen him before on his feet. Not just the fact he was dangling his left arm down and just looking more smooth in his upper body movement, but even his legs, he was moving a lot more. And that's also down to the fact that he is lighter now. He has been in his last two fights lighter than he was against Klitschko and Takam. So he's moving a lot more now. More smooth and fluid. But that left arm being low is not working the way it should work at the moment. Because one of the reasons that fighters will have the left arm low is because when they throw the jab, or sometimes even when they throw a lead hook, it comes totally outside of the field of vision of the opponent. So they're not focusing on the left glove because it's all the way down here. They're looking at the guy's head. Especially if they're at a certain distance. They're looking at the guy's head. They're not looking at where the left glove is dangling. And as soon as they make the wrong move, all of a sudden that left glove comes up, bang, a jab straight in the face, which they don't see coming, or a left hook around the side. See, that's one of the reasons why a lot of fighters will keep the left hand low. But also, a lot of fighters keep the left hand low because they feel like they can throw the jab faster, and it's also more comfortable for them to keep the left hand low because their shoulder doesn't get so tired having to keep their hands up all the time. Their shoulder feels less tired, and it stays more loose. You know, more loose and relaxed when they keep their left hand low. And this is coming from somebody who used to keep his left hand low when I used to box, all right? Particularly towards the end of my amateur career, that's how I was boxing, with the left hand low. I just found it more comfortable. I just have more spring in my jab after more rounds and stuff like that, keeping it low. But when you keep it low like that, you obviously have to either block shots with your shoulder or block shots with your right glove. Yeah, because your left glove is down. You're not going to be able to bring it up in time to block a lot of punches. You're going to have to block the straight shots coming at you with your right glove. And you're also going to have to use your right glove to block the left hooks. You know, so you're going to have to use one glove to block from both sides and the front, you know. And that is a skill. It takes skill to be able to do that. Not everybody can do it. And it remains to be seen whether Joshua can do it. So, I don't know. It is interesting where this change of style has come from. And I'll be interested to hear from you guys if you have any theories or explanations as to why he's changed this style the way he has, where it's come from, and if it's down to the fact that he might be working with other trainers. You know, he might have somebody else on board as part of the training team as well as Robert McCracken now. Who knows? Or maybe he's just taking it upon himself. Maybe he's looked at what Rob has taught him over the years and said, you know what, Rob? I want to try and experiment with some things that I think might work for me. And maybe Rob has said, okay, cool, let's see. Or maybe Rob has developed as a trainer and said, you know what, Anthony, I think we need to take your style to the next stage. Maybe we need to work on your fluidity and being a bit looser with your movements. So, you know, try keeping your left. I don't know who's come up with it, but somebody's come up with it. Will it work? That's the main question that I, would like to find the answer to. And proof is in the pudding at the end of the day. So we'll see how he boxes in his next fight. If he keeps his left, I mean, certainly against Deontay Wilder, I would not advise Anthony Joshua to be dangling his left hand low like that. If he dangles his left hand low like he did against Povetkin, against Wilder, he's going to get cleaned out. He needs to go back to the high guarded style with his hands up against Deontay Wilder. That is something he definitely needs to do for that fight, as far as I'm concerned. The best way to be is to adapt your style, to tailor your style to specific opponents. such that you can neutralize their greatest strength. And Deontay Wilder's greatest strength is that big right hand. It's not his only strength, but it's his greatest strength, is that big, long right hand at long range. It's very fast. It's very powerful. He's accurate with it. It comes out of nowhere. You don't want to be coming in the ring with a low left hand, especially if you're not accustomed to fighting that way. If that's a new fighting style for you, you don't want to be dangling no left hand. So if by some miracle the Wilder fight does happen in April, hey, Joshua better keep them hands up. If not, he's going to wind up flat on his back with a skinny 6'7" country boy from Alabama screaming bomb squad over his unconscious quivering body on the canvas. Bomb squad and all that business. Yeah, that's what's going to happen to Joshua if you don't keep that left hand up. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.